Picture a market of 1.4 billion people, one legal framework, one combined economy worth $3 trillion. On paper, it is already the largest free trade area in the world. Now picture this. For every $100 of digital services bought and sold on that continent, only 5 of those dollars stay on the continent. That is not a future problem. That is the market as it exists today. Here is the question sitting behind every conversation about Africa's digital single market right now. You can pass a protocol, you can get it ratified, you can hold the summits, sign the declarations, and publish the frameworks. None of that on its own moves a single transaction across a border. A software company in one capital city still has to figure out how to license itself in another. A payment still has to clear across 2 different regulatory systems that were never designed to talk to each other. Legal market access and operational market access are 2 entirely different achievements. And most of the work of continental integration lives in the gap between them. So what do we do to actually close that gap? Key point 1. On July 1st and 2nd, 2026, the African Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat and the government of Nigeria jointly hosted the 2nd AfCFTA Digital Trade Forum in Lagos, themed Digital Trade for a Connected African Market. AfCFTA Secretary General Wamkele Mene and Nigeria's Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Dr. Jumoke Oduwole, who also chairs the AfCFTA Council of Ministers responsible for trade, led the sessions. The forum closed with what organizers called 8 calls to action, time-bound commitments intended to move the digital trade protocol from a signed legal instrument into an operating market. Mene was explicit that this forum marked a deliberate shift from negotiation to implementation. That distinction is the whole story. Africa has spent years negotiating the legal architecture for a single digital market. The harder, less glamorous work, the actual plumbing, is what this forum was trying to start. A software developer in Lagos can, in principle, serve a client in Nairobi today. What that developer cannot easily do is get paid, licensed and taxed across that transaction the way a developer inside a single national market can. That is the 5% problem in one sentence. The legal right to trade exists, the operational infrastructure to trade does not yet. Key point 2. Why Nigeria is the center of this story. Nigeria is not a passive participant here. It is the first country to secure parliamentary approval for ratification of the Digital Trade Protocol. And it is leading a digital trade regulators working group tasked with developing common guidelines on market entry, licensing and investment procedures for digital businesses operating across African borders. Nigeria has also produced the continent's first comprehensive directory of digital services firms, explicitly designed to help Nigerian companies identify and enter priority markets including Egypt, Ghana, Kenya, Rwanda and South Africa. That is a country treating digital trade policy as an active export strategy, not a diplomatic commitment to sign and file away. Key point 3. The comparison that matters. The most useful benchmark here is the European Union's digital single market. The EU did not achieve a functioning single digital market by signing one treaty. It took more than a decade of harmonizing specific rules, data flows, consumer protection, licensing recognition, payment systems, one regulatory layer at a time. The legal framework was the easy part. The interoperability was the decade-long project. Africa's overall intra-continental trade rate sits at roughly 15% across all goods and services combined. Digital services at 5% are actually trading at a lower rate than the continent's physical trade already does. That is the uncomfortable number nobody put on a headline, and it is the number that should set expectations for how long real implementation takes. So what does this actually mean for the people trying to build and invest in this market right now? Here is the strategic picture, the strategic insight. Here is the reframe I want every policymaker and digital business leader watching this to sit with. A trade protocol is a permission structure. It is not by itself a market. The 5% figure is not evidence that AfCFTA's digital trade agenda has failed. It is an honest baseline measurement taken at the exact moment the continent shifted from negotiation to implementation. Baselines are supposed to be low. That is what makes them baselines. The real risk is not that 5% stays 5%. The real risk is that the 8 calls to action become another set of commitments with no enforcement mechanism behind them, because Africa has, in other integration efforts, produced ambitious frameworks that stalled precisely at the implementation stage, after the summits ended and the harder regulatory harmonization work needed sustained political attention. Nobody kept giving it. So here is what to actually watch for as this moves from Lagos into the next 12 months. The practical takeaways. 1. Watch whether the 8 calls to action get published with specific deadlines and a named accountability body, or whether they remain a communiqué with no enforcement mechanism behind them. 2. Track the Digital Trade Regulators Working Group closely. Harmonized licensing and market entry rules are the actual infrastructure this market needs. If that group produces binding guidelines within the next year, that is a genuine signal. If it stalls, the 5% figure will not move. 3. Other African governments should study Nigeria's Digital Services Directory model. Knowing which companies exist, what they do, and which markets they are ready to enter is a precondition for any government trying to actively grow intra-African digital trade rather than simply permit it. 4. Investors and platform businesses should treat the current 5% not as a red flag, but as the actual size of the opportunity, provided the regulatory harmonization genuinely follows through. Conclusion. Africa did not fail to build a digital single market. It finished building the legal shell of one, and is now starting the much harder work of making it operationally real. Whether that work gets sustained attention after the cameras leave Lagos is the only number that will actually matter 12 months from now. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in the next video, which is showing on your screen now.